You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. LSU continues to roll along in a busy recruiting weekend, a recruiting season. Our buddy Shea Dixon, always good enough to be with us on Tuesdays. On 3, the Bengal Tiger. He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
I'm awesome. Hey, I keep seeing, I prep around the SEC every day, and I see all these commits at all these schools coming out all these weekends, and it's been a couple weekends since LSU has gotten a commitment. Anything to worry about there?
No, I think that when you deal from the start of a recruiting cycle until the very end, and obviously it starts at different points as you get your first commit, ultimately ends for everybody on February signing day, that you stack up commitments at different points. I mean, last summer, LSU was heavy on July commitments. I think that could be the case again, as guys during the dead period, guys are getting ready for their senior season. So still, though, with the number 2 class in the country on 3 with 11 commitments, I think 8 of those commits are 6 of them, more than half, are top 100 guys. And you've got the number 1 overall player in Bryce Underwood at quarterback, another, number 1 running back and number 11 overall, I believe, on 3, and Harlem Berry coming out of New Orleans at running back. So, yeah, the class, I think, has got a great foundation, obviously, a number of O-linemen. And for me, and I think we'll talk about this here in a minute, is dominoes start to drop, it'll be on defense. And I think that when you replace when you replace an entire defensive staff, they're a little bit behind the 8 ball. So, commits from the offense coming first is no shock, given it's the same offensive staff coming off a year where they were number 1 in the country in total offense and had a Heisman winner.
Shay, what about how did this weekend go for LSU with the camps and the visits?
Yeah, they had a couple of camps, but certainly for the 2025 class, which are all these guys that are going to be seniors and then signing in December and February, it was key. Look, they had, again, double-digit official visitors, meaning you come in with your family, you get in on Friday, you stay until Sunday, and I think 11 total guys were on campus, and a number, 3 different offensive linemen, including Tyler Miller, who's one of their commitments. They had a handful of defensive line guys, including Jesse Harold, who's an edge prospect out of Florida, a 4-star top 100 player that we're kind of keeping an eye on. Corey Lehman had some corners in. Jake Olson had a couple of safeties in, including Jonah Williams, the number 1 safety in the country, who's kind of eyeing also playing baseball in college. So he got to meet with Jay Johnson. And I'm probably even skipping over some guys of note in there. So, look, C.J. Wiley, one of the top 10 receivers in the country, the son of Chuck Wiley, who obviously played at LSU, was 3-time All-SEC player back in the 90s. So it was a pretty big weekend. I could see them, when we reflect back on this week or look back on it after the dust settles in the class, if they don't walk away with a handful of guys from this class, this past weekend.
Do you look at any potential prospects that could pop here as we move toward the end of June and into July?
Yeah, the first one up would be Carius Kern, who was one of the offensive linemen here this past weekend. He's going to announce, he told me, on Thursday, 11 a.m., he'll release a video, and he is the number 1 player in Arkansas. He's also the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country on 3. That would give Brad Davis 3 O-line top 100 commits already this cycle, if they pull it off. My pick is in on LSU on the on 3 RPM. I think that they are able to beat out Arkansas here. He was committed to Arkansas at one point, visited Baton Rouge in the spring, and a couple of days later backed off that commitment. Now that he's had the official visit, I think things are looking good there. And no shocker, Matt, it feels like every year, because it is, that Brad Davis has been on the staff. He's put together arguably the best position group of anyone on the coaching staff.
Any other offensive linemen they're looking at, Shay?
Yeah,
just from a numbers standpoint too. I'm sorry.
Right. If they got Kern, they would be at 4 offensive linemen. He took 6 a year ago. We know they're about to have some major turnover, presumably, right, after this year when guys become draft eligible or out of eligibility. And you run the risk of maybe just returning a center, DJ Chester. So I could see them getting back to 6. Maybe they land on 5. So they do still have some offensive line targets, one coming this weekend, They had another guy, a tackle, Mario Nash, a 4-star out of Mississippi in this past weekend. So, yes, I think Brad Davis is kind of seeing what everybody sees is when you're going to lose 4 guys from the starting lineup potentially in a year, let's stack up with as much top-end talent as you can get.
And you said Kern's committing this Thursday at 11?
This Thursday at 11, June 20th.
All right, that'll be a big day for Brian Kelly. Brad Davis will keep an eye on it. Shea Dixon with us on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Follow him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Shea, I always like to ask you about the calendar and what's coming up because it's such a busy time of year with camps and all the prospect and elite camps to get all the recruits on campus. So what's coming up this coming weekend and camps and visits?
Yeah, this coming weekend, Friday, will be Friday Night Lights. It'll be the final camp of LSU's June circuit, and they'll have a number of top guys in for that one. Last year it was when Bryce Underwood, Harlem Berry, all those guys were out there throwing in Tiger Stadium, and kind of the pics went viral, and ultimately both guys ended up in the class. So could be a chance for us to see some of the early commitments for the 2026 cycle, but they'll have some 2025 guys out there for sure. And then Saturday is the final official visit weekend of the summer. They'll have, I believe, tomorrow on a midweek visit, they'll have a top 10 receiver, Derek Meadows, who goes to Bishop Gorman out in Vegas. He'll be in town. And then this weekend, they'll have Walter Mathis, Buddy Mathis, a D lineman that Bo Davis is after. I mentioned another O lineman for Brad Davis and Jacoby Ward. And then a D tackle that Xavier Akpanu out of Texas. Bo Davis had been on him, Matt, when he was at Texas. Now that he's here, he's been heavily on him again. He also is set to commit, not this week, but next week, June 29th. So I guess we're, 10 or 11 days out from that. He'll announce his decision. I think if this weekend goes well, he'll be part of the class. So dominoes are about to start to fall, and I think once they get past this week with Kern, if it goes their way, then we start to see the defensive tackles and maybe some DBs start to pop.
Shea, last thing, when we look at total number in this class, obviously there's no longer a hard cap of 25. Do you have an idea, or is it too early to tell just a total number of commits they might be looking at in this class, or a range?
Yeah, and Brian Kelly had said this at one point, and they've stuck to it, at least what the goal would be, and that would be signing 25 to 30 high school guys a year. If a JUCO guy is in there, count them in there. And then be in that 5 to 7 maybe range of transfers that you kind of fill some holes with, but don't have to rely so much on the portal like they did building up this roster, and then settle back into that 25 to 30 range. And I think a year ago they were right in that. I'd have to look and tell you. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but that would be my guess. 29 last year was the number, and they're at 11 right now, so plenty more to come.
To have the second overall class in the country and best in the SEC with just 11 commits is, I believe the saying, Shea, would be quality over quantity. Is that a good way to say it?
That would be a very good way to say it. And that's how we do our rankings on 3. So, for instance, it rolls. Just because you have 30 commits and another team has 11, if you've got nothing but 5 stars, your class is probably better than the one that has 33 stars. So, we do it by a rolling number, and actually right now the number is at 11, so it would be your top 11 commitments, which is as many as LSU has, 11. So yes, to be in that spot at number 2 with 11 means quality over quantity for sure.
Ohio State 1, LSU 2, Georgia, then Bama up to number 4, followed by Southern Cal and Clemson. That's the tops on the On3 industry ranking right now.
That's basically the who's who. NIL really didn't change too much. That's exactly how it's been the past 10 years.
Imagine that. The haves and the have-nots continue to reign in college football. Shea, you're the best. We always appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.